Hello, my name is Sue and I'm part of the Welcome Churches team. I lived in the Middle East for 20 years and my children grew up there as well. I also speak and read and write Arabic. I've been welcoming and supporting refugees since I came back to live in England from being in the Middle East. So welcome to this video about looking after myself. Some of you are watching because you're an asylum seeker or a refugee, and maybe you want to understand ways to look after yourself. Or perhaps you want to help another refugee friend. If you're watching this with a friend, hopefully you can share and talk together over the next few weeks about anything that's been helpful to you. If you start feeling stressed during this video as we talk about trauma and stress, please feel free to stop listening or take a short break from listening. We want this video to be helpful for you. We're going to be talking about our mental health and understanding more about stress and understanding what trauma is. We're going to look at how it affects our daily lives as well. And we're also going to talk about how we can look after ourselves and how we can ask for help if we need it.
I am Emily and I also work for the Welcome Churches team. We know that some of you will have English as a second or a third language as you're watching this. We will do our best to go slowly for you. You will need something to write on. We are going to ask you to write things down as we go, to think about some things and to share it with someone else after the video. We hope that you have someone from your church that you can speak with after this video if you would like. This person could also watch the video with you, or you can talk to them about it later.
We want to firstly understand why we sometimes feel stressed, or very sad, or depressed, or even sometimes angry, and how these things might be related to what has happened to us in our lives. There are many difficult things that are normal for people who have become refugees. We're also going to think in this video about what has happened to us in our home countries and on our journey to the UK and since we arrived here. We will be thinking about how it makes us feel and how these things have affected our life. Firstly, I want to talk a little bit about stress. In our past, and also in our lives now, we experience stress. We sometimes feel stressed when we have new situations or difficult situations. Stress is something that's natural in our bodies. If you remember your days in school or university and you had exams, the stress from these exams helped you to start studying because you were afraid of getting low grades or results that were not good. Stress sometimes helps us work hard or to concentrate and get something finished. For example, if I have friends coming to my house for a meal or for some coffee and cake, I have to be organised. I have to go to the supermarket. I have to choose the food that I need. I have to cook things and get things ready because people are coming. So feeling a little bit stressed makes me feel encouraged, and it gives me energy to do the things that I need to do. Many times, though, stress has a different effect on us. Because of stress, sometimes we feel we can't do anything, and stress stops us from doing what we want to do or what we need to do. Sometimes we feel we can't even make a decision. Sometimes we don't sleep well. Stress can make us feel tired all the time, or sometimes even just angry. It might make us be very quiet and not feel like speaking. Often we feel that we can't concentrate. Lots of people in the UK feel like this when they get stressed. It's very normal. But as a refugee or an asylum seeker, sometimes you also feel stressed about things happening in your home country, as well as things happening in your life here in the UK. A British friend of mine went to the supermarket last week and forgot her bank card. So when she had to pay, she had no money to pay with. She felt very stressed, and she felt annoyed with herself. Sometimes stress is from everyday things in life like this, and sometimes it comes from much, much bigger things. We want to encourage you today that God cares for you. He cares for all refugees and for those who have broken hearts in a very special way. There are lots of stories in the Bible about God caring for people who had to leave their countries and move to a new country. And we want to share 2 Bible verses with you today at the beginning of our time together. Psalm 34, verse 18, tells us, "The Lord is close to the broken-hearted." In Romans 8, from verse 35 to verse 39, we read that nothing can separate us from the love of God. These verses really help me when I'm facing difficult times. There's another word that we use to talk about stress that we might feel because of what has happened to us as a refugee. We use the word trauma in English to describe our reaction in our physical body, in our heart and emotions, and in our mind. It's a reaction to something very difficult in our lives or something bad that has happened to us. It might be something that happened to us, or it might be something that happened to someone we know or love, or it might be something we have seen happen or heard about. So something happened to us. It changed us, it changed our life, and maybe even changed our personality. Let me give you some words for types of trauma. Acute trauma. This describes when one big thing happens in your life or in someone else's life, like a disaster such as a flood, or it could be someone we know dying. Chronic trauma, when lots of things happen to us or people that we know. It could be lots of the same thing or lots of different things. For instance, having to move from your home, family members going to different places or different countries. Complex trauma. For some of you who've experienced war or fighting in your country, you have seen some very bad things, even things done by people from your own country, or by people who were your neighbours or you knew them. A person can have complex trauma when lots of things happen to them or to the people that they love. And these things may have been done by people that you know. They may have been especially bad or evil things to do. Ambiguous trauma describes when you don't have an end to something, such as a family member being missing and you don't know what has happened to them. Vicarious trauma is when you're hearing about these things happening to someone else and it affects your own mental health. So all of these types of trauma have medical names. They are normal for people who have become refugees. People who are not refugees can also have traumatic experiences and can be affected by trauma as well. Many people who've become refugees have been affected by many events in their lives and in the lives of their family and friends. And when you finally get to the UK, many refugees find that these traumatic events still affect their lives. When you think about your own life, can you think about the things that have happened to you before you left your country and on the journey here to the UK and since arriving here in the UK that are the kinds of stresses or trauma that I have described? If you're not a refugee, Think of refugee friends that you know and love. All of these things, such as leaving your home, journeys that have been dangerous, coming to a new country and not feeling safe, they will all affect us inside. They affect our feelings, they can affect our personality, they affect our minds and our thinking, and they can affect our bodies physically as well. All of this is called trauma. I'd like to tell you a story of one of the families I have met. As I tell this story, think about why this man is finding life difficult. The father came to England, then his wife and children came later. When I met him, he told me he was a maths teacher. He used to teach in the high school in his hometown. Everyone knew him and loved him. After he came to England, he became very depressed, feeling very sad, and everything seemed to make him angry. If someone helped him, he sometimes was angry with them. If something took a long time, he felt very angry and impatient inside. If someone couldn't help him, he felt even more angry and irritated. Everything made him sad or angry or simply depressed. But one day, we were talking together and he told me, "I'm sorry, I'm always so angry. I know you're trying to help me. When I lived in my country, I was very happy. Everyone loved me, and I loved saying hello to everyone in my town. I was a very good teacher, and everyone respected me. Now I live in England, and no one knows me, and no one respects me. It's very hard. I used to be a happy man, but now I'm an angry, grumpy man. I don't know why I'm not happy anymore. I want my children to know the happy man and the respected man that I used to be." I'd like you to pause the video for a few minutes and think about why this man is now sad and angry with everyone. Why do you think his personality has changed? You might have thought of a number of things, such as he lost his job, he has lost his self-esteem, he has lost recognition, people knowing who he was. Perhaps he feels there is no hope to be that person again. He has lost friendships. Perhaps now he feels like a stranger when he walks down the street. And it's difficult for him to provide for his family like he used to. Perhaps he was feeling he was less of a leader and the head of his family. So let's continue to think about how trauma can affect someone's daily life. When we've experienced trauma and a lot of stress in our lives, even in the past, it can affect our daily lives now. So let's talk about that for a few minutes. For some people, when they first arrive in the UK, they might have fast heartbeats or feel they want to run away from situations. Sometimes they feel they are looking for danger everywhere around them. Some people don't feel safe. They easily feel fearful or they panic. Some people feel very tired and exhausted, or you feel like you want to sleep a lot more than usual. Feeling anxious and worrying about everything is very normal. Feeling anxious when we remember what has happened to us and our family is also very normal. Some people are not able to sleep well and they have bad dreams. Sometimes when we've been in the UK a while, these first things might get less, but we can get other symptoms or signs of our trauma. We might feel angry or grumpy, like the man in my story, and sometimes even for no reason at all. Sometimes we can't concentrate. We might have an English lesson or try to learn English on our phone, but we find our mind doesn't want to learn. we have no space in our head. We can feel worried about our life, especially if we're waiting for Home Office decisions. Sometimes we're not feeling safe yet, especially if we're in a hostel or accommodation with strangers or people that you are afraid of or nervous about. Some people feel a loss of identity, like the man in my story. We used to be someone. Now we feel that people don't know us and they don't know the person we were in our home country. Sometimes we might feel we have no hope for the future. Some people have difficulty with relationships, either with people in general or in their marriage and family life. Some people have pains in their body or headaches, or they feel sick. Other people might have nightmares and bad dreams. The reason I'm telling you these things is not so that you can count how many things you have or to make you feel discouraged or down about your situation. We're telling you because they're all normal things for people who have become refugees. In the UK, we're better now than we were in the past in talking about our mental health. My grandparents didn't used to talk much about their feelings or emotions. If they were hurting inside, they didn't tell anyone because people didn't understand or because they felt ashamed or weak. They wanted to hide things inside of them, or they thought that people might think they were a bit troubled or messed up. Many of those in the UK who fought in World War II experienced a lot of trauma. But at that time, people felt ashamed to talk about this, so many kept quiet all of their lives, even though they had a great sadness in their hearts. We sometimes hear stories about our grandparents, and people say they never talked about what happened to them in the war. For the rest of their lives, they buried their feelings. In the UK now, we talk a lot more about our feelings and what we call our mental health. Mental health is all about our feelings, our emotions, how we are inside, our heart and our head, and how we are coping with normal life. If you want to tell someone about yourself and you're finding things difficult, you can use these kinds of words in English. I've been feeling a bit down lately. I'm struggling with my mental health at the moment. I'm feeling stressed. I'm feeling very depressed. I'm really struggling with life. Lots of people in the UK are struggling with their mental health, and it's something that we try to talk about. It's not always easy to talk about, but we try. We can talk about our physical health, such as, I have bad backache all the time. And we can talk about our mental health, such as, I've been feeling very down lately, I'm not sleeping well.
So how do things continue to affect us in daily life? Sometimes we are feeling okay, but then something small happens and it makes us suddenly remember things from the past or traumatic events that we have experienced. Here are a few examples. Sometimes we hear something that reminds us of something in the past. In the UK, we have fireworks on Bonfire Night in November. Some people also have fireworks at New Year or at other celebrations. This can be very difficult for some people, particularly those who have been in a war zone. Someone shouting very loudly can also make us suddenly feel unsafe.
Sometimes it's a matter of seeing something. Someone told me recently about being in a room for an appointment and they couldn't see the door as it was behind them, and it made them feel very scared. They didn't know who was coming in and out of the room. For some people, it's a smell that reminds them of something that happened or reminds us of a place and then our body reacts and we feel like we did when we smelt that smell before. We have 4 questions that we're going to work through, which you can ask yourself. You can write down the question and your answers on a piece of paper or on your phone. You can talk with another person about them later on. So the first question is, how do I know that I am stressed or struggling? The second question is, how do others know that I'm stressed or struggling? Emily, what about you? How do you know when you're stressed or struggling?
Well, for me, I feel very critical of other people when I am stressed.
And how do others know that you're stressed?
I become very impatient. Nothing that other people do is good enough.
For me, I find if I'm stressed, my thoughts go round and around in my head, and I keep thinking about conversations or trying to picture or imagine the thing that I'm feeling stressed about to try and make it go away. And I think when other people see me like that, they don't see what my thoughts are doing, but they see me as becoming very quiet and perhaps not saying much in the conversation.
Now we are going to talk about practical ways that we can look after ourselves. Sometimes we feel fine, we have hope for the future, but then something small happens and we find that our feelings are sinking low, or we feel suddenly unwell or stressed. These are very normal things to happen for people who have experienced traumatic events. It is good for us to know what these difficult things are, so that we can try and stay away from them, or be prepared for our own feelings. Because people know that I work with refugees, sometimes I get recommended a TV programme to watch or a book which tells someone's difficult story in great detail. Because I know real people who have been in dangerous situations, I don't like to watch or read these things as it is too difficult. There are other ways that we can look after ourselves and look after our mental health. Everyone is different, but you may find some of these things useful. Going for walks outside, enjoying nature, enjoying the city that you live. Taking photographs. Growing a plant inside your room. Caring for something like a plant can help us to think beyond ourselves. Taking exercise, walking or running. This releases good hormones in our body to make us feel better. Praying together or just singing together with friends. Inviting friends round to our home, having barbecues. Or going to groups to make new friends. We're going to think again about our own lives. How can I help myself? For me, I make sure that I leave my house every day. I work from home a lot, and if I don't go anywhere else in the day, then I quickly feel sad.
I also like to go out walking, but I do like to cook in the kitchen, and I like to put music on. Sometimes I sing to the music. So as I start to cook and I listen to the music, it helps me feel relaxed.
Let's spend a few minutes just writing these things down for ourselves. It is also good to ask for help from others. Sometimes people in church don't know how to help you, and they won't ask you if you need help in case they offend you. If you ask them for help, they will be very happy to give it to you. You will also get to know each other better. For example, a few years ago, I didn't have anywhere to live. I had to ask some friends if I could move in with them for a few months, as I had no other option. It was a bit scary because they could have said no. But they said yes, and now we are really good friends after living together. A good place to ask for help is in your church. We know that it is difficult to ask for help from your church, especially from people who have not experienced the same things as you. Here are some ideas to help you build good, long-lasting relationships with people in your church. You can use some of the words we looked at earlier to tell someone you are finding life difficult. You can ask to speak to someone at church. You could say, "I'm feeling quite down at the moment. Can I chat to you about this?" You can ask to join with groups at church. You can ask, "How can I join in with a group at church so that I can get to know more people?" It is much easier to ask for help from people you know. You can also ask people for ideas of where to walk, ideas of places that are beautiful near you, near your home. If someone offers some help to you, say, "Yes, please, that would be great." Your church will love to pray for you. You can ask your church to pray for you individually, specifically for things you are finding difficult. It is a great way that we can encourage each other as a church. It may be that you need to get help professionally to process the difficult things in your past. A GP or counselling or a group you can join. Take a friend if you want to. You don't need to go to these things by yourself. And you can ask in your church if they know of groups for people who need extra support. Remember, you can always ask for an interpreter if you need one. It can be very difficult to do this in a second language. So this is the final question we are going to think about today. How can others help me? What help do I need to ask for? For me, I ask some good friends if I can go round to their house regularly, every few weeks. We eat a meal together and watch TV. It is a good way for me to look after myself by being able to spend time with my friends. Let's spend a few minutes writing these things down for ourselves. If you are looking to help someone else, remember, it is important to be aware that a big obstacle for refugees is finding friends of the same gender to be honest with and to be supported by. This is a huge need in the refugee community. Often it will be you who have to intentionally offer a regular friendship with someone and to include them in your normal life as a friend. You may also need to ask another person to intentionally offer friendship to a refugee you know too. So what can I do now? If you are from a refugee background, do you have someone you know in your church who you can talk to about some of the things you have learnt today? You may have watched this video with someone. If so, you could both share the answers to the questions we have worked through together. If you are not from a refugee background, have a think about these needs and think if there are people that you can befriend and support in the coming weeks and months. Can you also share some of the things you have learnt with another refugee friend, particularly the questions we have worked through? We will put these questions up again in a few moments to make sure you have written them all down. Thank you so much for joining us today and for watching this video. We hope that you have found it useful. Welcome churches exist to connect refugees and asylum seekers with their local church across the UK. You can find out ways that we do this and ways that we can help you connect with your local church by visiting our website for more details.